Well, hi there, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive and I'm Meghna Deka. Now viewers, there's a question that could shake the corridors of power in Washington. Has the former US President Donald Trump initiated the conflict with Iran to bury the Epstein Files? Was this merely a diversionary war? Well, that theory is now being floated. There are reports which suggest that his name appears over 3,000 times in the controversial documents, the Epstein Files, raising political alarm bells in US politics. The files also revisit familiar names from the former President Bill Clinton in the infamous hot tub revelations to, of course, Hillary Clinton's dramatic declaration that I'm done. Well, history, it seems, may be repeating itself. Remember 1998? The Monica Lewinsky scandal and the sudden missile strike, which was orchestrated by Bill Clinton, who was then in power, against Sudan and Afghanistan. Many said that was a diversionary war as well. Could this US-Iran escalation war be more than just a military maneuver? Could it also be a diversionary war? We are going to be discussing that today because many are saying it is the cinematic wag the dog strategy to shift the spotlight away from the Epstein Files. We are going to dissect the politics, the timing behind the politics, timing behind the war, and the possible implications of a war which is shadowed by a scandal of sex, sleaze, and dirty tapes. A lot of it redacted. But first up, let's listen in to what former US President Bill Clinton had to say about the viral hot tub picture of his during the Epstein-related deposition. Now, let's also give you Hillary Clinton's bite from the deposition itself and why exactly she said, I am done. Remember, the couple, Clinton and his wife, both of them have been named in the Epstein Files, and it is the picture of Bill Clinton in a hot tub which has gone viral as well. What is his defense and what does Hillary say? Well, you have the picture of the hot tub of Bill Clinton there with girls around him. This is also part of the Epstein Files, something that a former US president had to go and depose about, the first time that one such thing has happened. Why did this happen? And what was it that Clinton said in his defense? I am done, said Hillary Clinton. Of course, that was about a picture of their deposition being leaked to the media. But let's move on. Let's tell you how the Trump-Epstein Files saga is now putting the bipartisan pressure on US President Donald Trump, asking him if there is some kind of a connection between the Epstein Files and how the heat was increasing on Trump when suddenly he decided to strike Iran. On 30th of January this year, Jamie Raskin, a Democrat lawmaker, said that it's not just 3,000 mentions of Trump's name which have been released. There are over 1 million times that Trump has been mentioned if you get your hands on the fully unredacted files. Then on the 1st of March, you had Thomas Massie, a Republican lawmaker, who said that bombing a country on the other side of the globe will not make the Epstein Files go away. Thomas Massie is the same lawmaker who brought out the Epstein Files in the public domain. So there are already people who are asking if this is a diversionary war to take the heat away from the Epstein Files by Trump. Now let's tell you about the timeline. The reason why they are saying that there is the timing which seems to be coinciding with the Epstein Files. Let's tell you vis-a-vis the US-Iran conflict. On 10th of February, Trump said that it is time for US to maybe get into something else. At that time, it seemed like an innocuous statement. Then 24th of February, you had the DOJ, the Department of Justice, withholding Epstein Files, and it was found in the investigation that, yes, indeed, they had withheld the Epstein Files, which are tied to abuse claims against Trump, and this is as per one of the NPR investigation which was carried out. Then the files which are logged in DOJ database but not publicly released. 25th of February is when the Republican oversight head aligns with the Democrats for a probe and said, yes, indeed, we are going to probe if there was a cover-up in terms of Trump as well. Then you had 26th of February, Hillary Clinton testifying before the Congress on Epstein Files. Bill Clinton did as well. 27th of February, the former US President Bill Clinton testified before the Congress. 28th of February, US and Israel bomb multiple sites in Tehran. This is the timeline. आप chronology समझिए. This is very clear, many would say. It's being said that Trump is employing the diversionary war theory. What is that? What really does the diversionary war theory say? Is that the primary goal is to shift the public attention away from domestic failures. The goal is to initiate military conflict, to try and redirect some of the public scrutiny onto something else. It's a psychological trigger which creates a rallying point around the flag. Essentially, rallying around the flag means instills a sense of patriotism, which does come in the case of a war. That is what a diversionary war tactic is. Also, the common motivation in cases such as this have been low approval ratings for political scandals, something which has happened in Trump's case as well. In group and output, you have unifying citizens by demonizing an enemy. One big enemy is projected as the demon, and then you say, this is why we must unite against it. The risk factor, that's also very important. Risk factor, where leaders may gamble for resurrection, politically at that. There you have it. This is what the diversionary war theory is all about. But has this happened in the past? Yes, of course. Let's get you some of the examples from the history about similar theories of diversionary war which were put up under different precedents. It began in April 1982. Then Argentinian president had severe economic crisis at home, and there was severe unrest, civil unrest, which had happened in Argentina. This is what was followed by the invasion of Falklands, seizing the islands. Then in August 1998, similarly, you had US President Bill Clinton. If you remember at the time, Monica Lewinsky scandal had erupted, and Bill Clinton had to go to the grand jury and testify in front of it. He was the sitting president. Then suddenly, he launched Operation Infinite Reach. This is where cruise missiles struck Sudan and Afghanistan. This too was called a diversionary war. Then in December 1998, US President Bill Clinton faced impeachment proceedings in the House. Another diversionary tactic allegedly was used by him, which was Operation Desert Fox. This was the bombing of Iraq. Then January 2020, President Trump, he too is accused of a diversionary war when he faced the first impeachment trial for the Ukraine call. Iran commander Soleimani's assassination had happened under a drone strike, and he had taken credit for it. Were these all diversionary wars? And more importantly, is the US-Iran war a diversionary tactic? Well, viewers, let's get you Trump's falling ratings that might have prompted him to bomb Iran, as it was very critical to the theory of a diversionary war. Trump's approval ratings had dropped to 38%. This is related to the Ipsos Reuters poll, which was held on the 22nd of February, 5 days before the strike. 34% Americans had supported Operation Epic Fury at the time. 43% Americans had disapproved of the strike. As of now, once the Americans realize what is going to be the impact on their economy, the rise, a possible rise in fuel prices as well, as of today, only 18%, as per this report, are backing Operation Fury if there is going to be steep increase in their oil prices. 21% Republicans wanted prior Congress nod before this kind of a war. So what really was the reason? What really compelled the US president to go in for a war? Well, US-Iran war was on the anvil, remember, even before it can be called a diversionary tactic. There are those who are saying that it wasn't sudden, that it was in the making for several decades. Remember, in the early 2010s, Israel had sought US action against Iran's nuclear program. 2012, you had Netanyahu's UN speech, which drew the red line against Iran's uranium enrichment, which had begun. In 2025, 12th of June, you had the IAEA, which had formally declared Iran non-compliant with the nuclear enrichment program that it was holding and saying that there were multiple rounds of failed nuclear negotiations with Iran. Then in 2026, earlier this year, one of the largest Middle East US military buildups had happened even before Iran struck. So what does Trump say today? Well, Trump says it's too late. That's right, big breaking news which is coming in. The latest signaling, and this is not good signaling, is coming in from President Trump. He said it is too late for any kind of a negotiation. A message coming in for Iran as US-Israel continue to pound Iran. Trump says Iran wants to talk, but Trump says it's too late to hold talks. It's a big no to negotiation. Iran's army and leadership is gone. In fact, what does the tweet exactly say? We are going to tell you about it. On Truth Social, you have this post coming in from Donald Trump, which says their air defense, Air Force, Navy and leadership, all of it is gone. Then now they say they want to talk. I said too late. So essentially, President Trump has said it's too late to talk. Let's move on. What does this really mean? Let me go across to two of our panelists who are joining us. Vibhuti Jha is joining us, a Republican leader. Sophie Fullerton is also joining us, a professor of politics. Let me go across to Vibhuti Jha, a Republican leader. Why is Trump ruling out negotiation and talks when the entire world is worried about how the war is going to impact them? Vibhuti Jha, was this and does this continue to be a diversionary war, a war to take the heat off the Epstein Files for Trump?
Well, you have already very nicely narrated that this saga is not something that happened yesterday. It has been going on. It has been in the pipeline for a very long time. But one of the things that one has to remember that Iran is a past master in delaying tactics. What they say in Islamic terminology is taqiyya. Say whatever to pursue your own goal. The West doesn't get it. We are in the West, in democracies, we bend backwards to accommodate a diversionary point of view, a different point of view, whereas the enemy takes advantage of that. So could you talk about compromise? My theory is very simple, is that you cannot have a compromise between a drop of poison and a gallon of milk. This is what is important to understand. There is a point beyond which you have to stop negotiating. Now, the reality is American credibility is low, which I do agree with that. Following the famous,
There's a difference, Vibhuti Jha. America's credibility is low or the American president's credibility is low.
No,
is it not true that there are at least 3,000 mentions of President Trump in the Epstein Files? Those who have seen the unredacted files say that the number of references to him could be over 1 million.
Wait a minute. American credibility is low because of the Iraq WMD fiasco. This is an American scenario. If America had been smart, maybe they would have found the WMD evidence in Iran, but they chose that it was in Iraq. That's what is the problem here. So people at the moment have a problem. Which argument?
We don't have credible evidence of WMD in Iran either, Vibhuti Jha.
No, wait. The enrichment plan is already there in the Munich conference, by the way. In the Munich conference.
Oh, come on, Vibhuti Jha, you know better than that. Enrichment can be for other purposes as well, not WMDs every time.
Wait. If Iran doesn't want to have enriched uranium, and it's all for peaceful purposes, Lindsey Graham said that one of the negotiation element was that we will supply you nuclear energy from Europe.
Okay.
But Iran refused it.
For any of our viewers who are wondering what a diversionary war is, Vibhuti Jha's answer, well, that is a diversion. He was asked about Epstein Files, 3,000 references to President Trump in it. He's instead telling us about Iran and its nuclear facilities. Sophie Fullerton, do you see credibility in the possibility, given the chronology that we have seen, this may have been a diversionary war? Having said that, Democrats have done that in the past as well. This time it's Trump.
I would say that, yes, you can give credence to this idea that this is a diversionary war, because if you look at what's happening with Trump domestically, as you mentioned, he's not popular with the domestic base. And I would even go as far as to say his own base is extremely upset with him right now because of what he has campaigned on and what he was elected on. We need to remember what Trump was elected on was an American first position that really brought the concerns of Americans home. There was not a need or an urge by the American people that elected him to go over and do foreign wars or involve himself anywhere internationally.
Absolutely.
This is why he's known as the American first president. So there's growing frustration, not just with the progressive base or the Democratic base, but also with his own base, that he is not being able to provide what he said he was going to do on the campaign. And so you could say, for example, that this is a credible argument that when there's more pressure and heat of what he's failing at domestically, he is now moving elsewhere to gain a type of distraction, which I would say the Iran conflict has been a strong distraction, because we really haven't been talking about the domestic qualms that has involved his administration over the past multiple weeks.
Sophie Fullerton, would it be the first time America's indulged in this kind of a diversionary war? Because there are those who have said, and this includes the Republicans themselves, who had said Clinton did it too when it came to the Monica Lewinsky scandal. He sent cruise missiles to bomb Afghanistan, Sudan.
Well, we're in no one's head, but I would say that it is very calculating politically to be able to involve yourself in some type of war for a multitude of reasons. You can even argue, for example, that it would be a way for a government to declare a national emergency or try to suspend specific type of electoral processes as we move forward if a president is not doing well domestically and they worry that they're not going to do well electorally. So there's a diversity of reasons why a war or conflict would be able to help a president domestically. I'd also like to mention quickly, you mentioned the nationalistic aspect of this as well.
Yes.
You're right in the sense that when there's a rallying cry or a war that a public can get behind, it really can be seen as a unifying factor that can be utilized politically for a specific administration that is not doing well domestically.
Vibhuti Jha, but do you think that rallying around the flag has flopped for President Trump? It doesn't seem that he's even got his own voter base behind him now.
No, the question here is very important. America indulges in war all the time. And Americans as a collective will have to take a decision, white, Black, Spanish, Indians, Republicans or Democrats. The whole world today sees the fallacy of warmongering by American military establishment. So America has not won a single war yet after Second World War. Think about it from that perspective. So people are now quite clued on. Nobody likes war. Trump was not supposed to be the warmonger president. That's what is important here.
He was ironically voted because he promised isolationism. Vibhuti Jha, what went wrong?
It was not isolationism. It is, we will not get into a war. That was the whole agenda. Epstein File is going on for so long. It is a tragedy of gigantic proportion for Americans who are trying to export our way of life and American democracy all over the world. And President Bill Clinton was the one who said after Monica Lewinsky scandal, it depends on how you define what is. This is the farcical nature of the certain elements of our life, Republican or Democrats. We both do that to each other. And in the eyes of the world today, the way we communicate, tectonic shift brought by technology. Look at this, we are having a live conversation. US and India, this was not possible 10 years ago.
Yes,
Today,
it wasn't.
News
However,
travels
this kind of a war. One quick last word from Sophie Fullerton. When President Trump says the time for negotiations is over, should we fear for the worst? Weeks, if not months, if not years of war again. Sophie Fullerton. Well, looks like a bit of a problem there. We'll try and reconnect with Sophie, but unfortunately, we need to wrap up this bulletin. That's all the time that we had in this show. Thank you so much, Vibhuti Jha, as well as Sophie Fullerton, for joining us here with your perspective. So was the US-Iran-Israel war a mere diversionary war? We leave you, the viewer, to decide.